8 seconds. That's all it would take for history to fracture. Imagine a galaxy where Luke Skywalker never felt the weight of a lightsaber in his hands, because Obi-Wan Kenobi chose his sister instead. Whispers of the Force speak of paths not taken, destinies rewritten, and choices buried in shadow. This is one of those forbidden echoes, a secret the Jedi never told, a future the Empire feared. What if Leia Organa, Princess of Alderaan, became the apprentice of the last Jedi Knight? What if the torch of the Republic, the spark of rebellion, carried not just the fire of leadership, but the blade of the Jedi? Would the Empire have fallen sooner, or would the galaxy have burned brighter, faster, consumed by vengeance and tragedy? This is not the story we know. This is the story that might have been. A Star Wars, what if that rewrites everything? Imagine this. Instead of hiding on Tatooine to watch over Luke, Obi-Wan Kenobi makes a different choice. He turns his attention toward Leia Organa, the strong-willed daughter of Padme Amidala and Anakin Skywalker, raised not as a moisture farmer, but as the Princess of Alderaan. From the very beginning, the story of Star Wars would shift in ways we can hardly predict. This isn't just a small what if, it's a galaxy-altering scenario that could ripple across every major event we know. Think about the timeline. In A New Hope, Leia is already a leader and confident, brave, and politically savvy. Now, layer Jedi training on top of that. Obi-Wan, a disciplined master shaped by the Clone Wars, wouldn't just be training a curious farm boy who barely knows the galaxy exists beyond his desert home. He'd be guiding someone with diplomatic experience, tactical intelligence, and a fire in her heart. Suddenly, the Jedi Order might have been reborn not through Luke Skywalker's journey, but through Leia's rise as a warrior diplomat. But here's where it gets really interesting: Alderaan. With Leia as Obi-Wan's apprentice, Alderaan wouldn't just be a peaceful planet quietly opposing the Empire. It would become the beating heart of the Jedi's resurgence. Bail Organa, already a key figure in the rebellion, would support this training wholeheartedly. Imagine secret chambers beneath Alderaan's palaces being used for lightsaber drills and meditation practices. Instead of waiting years for Luke to stumble onto his destiny, Obi-Wan would already be planting the seeds of hope in the galaxy's political core. Now, let's not forget the Empire's role in this. Palpatine and Vader were constantly hunting for any spark of Jedi survival. If they caught wind of Leia's training early, the stakes would skyrocket. Vader's obsession with finding his lost children might play out very differently. Would he sense Leia through the Force sooner? Would there be a confrontation between father and daughter much earlier than in the original trilogy? The emotional weight of that is staggering. Leia face-to-face with her father before Luke even picks up a lightsaber. Here's the kicker: Obi-Wan himself. Training Leia wouldn't just change her, it would change him. Instead of living in exile, haunted by his failures with Anakin, Obi-Wan would find purpose again. Guiding Leia would give him redemption, a reason to keep fighting, and perhaps even a chance to rebuild his faith in the Jedi way. We wouldn't see the broken, weary hermit we met on Tatooine. We'd see a mentor reigniting his spark, shaping a new kind of Jedi Order with Leia at its center. And that leaves us with a burning question. If Leia was the one holding the lightsaber from the start, would Luke still matter to the story? Or would his role transform into something completely unexpected? From the moment we first meet Leia Organa, it's clear she isn't just another character in the galaxy far, far away. She's decisive, fearless, and already thinking several steps ahead of everyone else. Now imagine those qualities honed under Obi-Wan's careful Jedi training. Instead of raw, untested potential like Luke, Leia would enter her Padawan years with skills most Jedi trainees could only dream of. And that raises an exciting thought. Was Leia actually better suited to be a Jedi from the start? Let's break it down. Jedi training demands discipline, focus, and the ability to balance passion with control. Leia was raised in the political heart of the galaxy, groomed to navigate Senate chambers filled with scheming senators, imperial spies, and ruthless power makers. She learned how to keep calm under pressure long before she ever touched a blaster. As a Padawan, this foundation would be invaluable. While Luke struggled to clear his mind on Dagobah, Leia would already understand how to channel emotion into strength without letting it consume her. Then there's her courage. Even without Jedi powers, Leia never hesitated to stand up to Darth Vader, Grand Moff Tarkin, or anyone else who tried to intimidate her. With training, that natural bravery would become unstoppable. Imagine Leia wielding a lightsaber during those tense rebel missions. Not only would she inspire those around her, but she'd also terrify the Empire. A young princess turned Jedi Knight? That's not just a symbol of hope. That's a living declaration of war against tyranny. But her greatest strength might not lie in combat. It's in leadership. Luke's journey was deeply personal, focused on discovering who he was and confronting his father. Leia's path, on the other hand, was always outward-facing. She thought about people, causes, and a bigger picture. With Jedi training, she wouldn't just be another warrior. She'd be the ultimate blend of Jedi philosophy and political influence. Think of a Jedi who can negotiate peace in the Senate one day and lead troops into battle the next. That's Leia. Of course, there's a danger here too. Leia's fiery personality could test Jedi teachings. Obi-Wan would need to guide her carefully, making sure her passion for justice didn't slide into anger or revenge. But that tension might be exactly what made her stronger. Unlike Luke, who often doubted himself, Leia's conviction could allow her to embrace the light without constantly second-guessing her path. And here's something fans love to debate. If Leia had been trained first, would she have surpassed Luke entirely? It's not hard to picture her becoming a Jedi Master far quicker, combining her sharp mind with lightsaber skill and Force sensitivity. She might even have become the galaxy's best hope years before Luke ever faced Vader. But let's pause here, because if Leia rose as a Jedi early on, the Empire wouldn't sit back and let happen. In fact, Palpatine and Vader would see her as an even bigger threat than Luke. Which leads us to the next question. Now here's where things get truly explosive. If Obi-Wan had chosen to train Leia instead of Luke, it wouldn't have taken long for the Empire to notice. After all, Leia wasn't hiding on a remote desert planet like Luke. She was right in the political spotlight as the princess of Alderaan. Training her in secret would be like hiding a lightsaber in the Emperor's throne room. Bold, dangerous, and almost impossible to conceal forever. The moment Palpatine caught wind of Leia's Force sensitivity, alarms would have gone off across the Empire. To him, the survival of even a single Jedi was unacceptable. But this wouldn't be just any Jedi. Leia, with her royal status, political power, and growing reputation as a rebel figurehead, would represent the perfect storm of threats. She wouldn't just be another Jedi Knight to hunt down. She'd be a rallying point for the galaxy. And if there's one thing Palpatine feared most, it was the idea of hope spreading faster than he could crush it. Vader's reaction, though, is even more intriguing. In the original timeline, he spent years searching for Luke, driven by an instinctive connection he didn't fully understand until later. If Leia were the one being trained, that connection might spark much earlier. Picture this: Vader facing Leia in battle, sensing the same raw strength in her that he once felt in himself. Would he recognize her as his daughter sooner? Would he attempt to turn her just as he did Luke? And what if Leia, fueled by her unbreakable will, rejected him on the spot? That confrontation would carry emotional stakes far greater than Luke's hesitant, conflicted struggle. The Empire's response would also be strategic. Palpatine might accelerate the development of projects like the Death Star, desperate to keep the galaxy in fear before Leia could rally the rebellion with Jedi guidance. Entire fleets could be redirected just to eliminate her, forcing the rebels into desperate battles long before Yavin or Endor. In other words, Leia's training could compress the timeline of the Galactic Civil War, turning what unfolded over years into an immediate fight for survival. And let's not forget Alderaan. In the original story, its destruction was a demonstration of the Death Star's power. But if Leia had been openly trained as a Jedi, Alderaan might have been destroyed much earlier, not as a test, but as a direct attempt to eliminate her. This darker possibility raises an intense question. Would Leia's training bring victory faster, or would it draw the Empire's firepower so quickly that the rebellion might be crushed before it even had a chance? Here's the paradox. The very thing that makes Leia a beacon of hope could also make her a target too dangerous to protect. Obi-Wan's choice would light up the galaxy, but it would also paint a giant bullseye on Leia's back. So, if Leia became the Jedi, what then would happen to Luke? Without Obi-Wan's mentorship, his destiny would look very different. And that's where things get even more fascinating. If Leia had been the one trained by Obi-Wan, that begs the question, what about Luke? Without Obi-Wan guiding him, Luke wouldn't have been pulled into the world of Jedi training. He wouldn't have held a lightsaber on the Millennium Falcon, nor would he have flown to Dagobah in search of Yoda. Instead, Luke's path would be something far more grounded, yet still just as vital to the rebellion. Think about who Luke was before Obi-Wan ever stepped in. A restless farm boy with incredible piloting skills and a burning desire to escape Tatooine. Those traits wouldn't disappear just because Leia became the Jedi. In fact, his dream of leaving Tatooine would have driven him into the rebellion anyway. But this time, instead of becoming the galaxy's last Jedi Knight, Luke might have taken on a different role, an ace pilot and strategist, someone whose destiny was tied to starfighters rather than the Force. This isn't as far-fetched as it sounds. Remember, Luke was already a gifted pilot, praised even before the battle. In this alternate timeline, Luke might have become the rebellion's greatest pilot, maybe even a commander within Rogue Squadron. He wouldn't be swinging a lightsaber against Vader, but he could still be flying head-to-head against TIE fighters, delivering critical victories for the Alliance. And here's the twist. Without the weight of Jedi destiny on his shoulders, Luke might have been freer, less burdened by expectations, and more focused on tactical contributions to the war. But let's go deeper. How would Luke feel knowing Leia was chosen instead of him? There's a chance for resentment here. Imagine Luke discovering that his sister had been trained as a Jedi while he was left behind. That realization could plant feelings of inadequacy, driving him to prove himself in other ways. This tension could create a fascinating dynamic between the twins. Leia as the Jedi warrior princess, Luke as the daring rebel pilot trying to match her impact. On the other hand, Luke's lack of Jedi training might also protect him. Without diving into the Force, he wouldn't carry the same risk of falling to the dark side. Palpatine wouldn't see him as a threat, meaning Luke could operate under the radar while Leia drew the Empire's attention. In some ways, his ordinary humanity could make him extraordinary, a reminder that not every hero in Star Wars needed the Force to change the galaxy. Now picture the moment that could rewrite everything. Luke, still a pilot, still without Jedi powers, flying alongside Leia, who now leads with both the Force and the lightsaber. The galaxy would see a different kind of Skywalker story. Not one chosen twin, but two siblings shaping the rebellion in complementary ways. And yet, all roads in Star Wars lead back to one question: the balance of the Force. With Leia trained and Luke sidelined from Jedi destiny, how would the Force itself react? Would balance be achieved sooner or lost entirely? At the heart of every Star Wars story is one central theme: balance. The prophecy of the Chosen One, the constant tug-of-war between light and dark, and the idea that the Force itself seeks equilibrium. So if Leia were trained by Obi-Wan instead of Luke, would that balance have been restored sooner? Or would the galaxy have fallen into even greater turmoil? First, let's look at Leia's strengths through the lens of destiny. She was already a leader who thought beyond herself. Where Luke's journey was often about personal discovery, finding his place, confronting his father, wrestling with temptation, Leia's path was collective. She fought for the galaxy, for justice, for peace. With Jedi training, this focus might have allowed her to act more decisively, making hard choices Luke often hesitated on. In theory, that could mean Palpatine's defeat much earlier. A Jedi Leia could have united the rebellion with both political charisma and Force-wielding power. But the Force doesn't work on shortcuts. Here's the catch. Leia's certainty, her passion, and her fiery will might have actually tilted her dangerously close to the dark side at times. Unlike Luke, who approached things with wide-eyed innocence, Leia's sharp edge could make her more vulnerable to anger, especially after Alderaan's destruction. Imagine a Jedi who lost her entire planet to the Empire. Would her fight for justice remain pure, or would vengeance cloud her path? The risk of imbalance here is very real. And let's not forget Vader. In the original timeline, Luke's compassion, his refusal to kill his father, was the spark that ultimately turned Vader back to the light. Would Leia have made the same choice? She was strong, determined, and unflinching, but perhaps less forgiving than her brother. If Leia had faced Vader as her father, would she have seen the man trapped beneath the mask, or only the monster who destroyed her homeworld? That moment could have determined not just Vader's fate, but the entire galaxy's. Now, consider Luke's alternate role. Without Jedi training, he would still contribute, but his absence from the Force equation could leave Leia carrying the entire burden of destiny alone. Maybe the Force needed both twins, the balance of Luke's compassion and Leia's strength, to truly tip the scales. One without the other might lead to victory, yes, but perhaps at a cost the galaxy wasn't ready to pay. So, would Leia have brought peace faster than Luke? Possibly. Her leadership, her training, and her sheer willpower might have toppled the Empire sooner. But whether that peace would have been lasting, or whether the dark side would have claimed her in the process, is the great unanswered question. And maybe that's the beauty of this world. Star Wars has always been about choices, and in this alternate universe, Leia's choices could have reshaped everything we know.